Video games, unfortunately, are always plagued with moments of silly dialogue. You know, just weird, goofy, awkward, or cringeworthy lines that some characters say that you just can't quite get out of your head. That's what we're talking about today. We got 20 stupid examples of really funny dialogue in video games. First, over at number 20, let's start off with the obvious, Resident Evil 4. Now, Resident Evil 4 knows what it is. It's campy on purpose. It loves to be goofy and have a bunch of wacky fun and say a bunch of dumb stuff. But the Resident Evil 4 remake loses some of that. It's definitely got some good one-liners and some zingers, and it adds some of its own, but the original really had a lot, and it's really hard to decide what moment of dialogue is the absolute silliest, but it's got to be a lot of the exchanges between Salazar and Leon. Now, the remake, unfortunately, took away the whole codec radio system where the bad guy would actually call you up to talk smack. That doesn't happen anymore, and unfortunately, it's missing so many great moments. Leon and Salazar in the original game have so many back and forths about how Salazar is putting on this grand play and how everything is going according to plan, and there's all these dumb tongue-in-cheek references to plays and stories and scripts, and you know, other than "no thanks, bro," I think one of the greatest things Leon says to Salazar is, and I quote, "I don't ever remember being a part of your crappy script."
You're nothing but an extra in my script, so don't get too carried away. Your biggest scene is over.
I don't ever remember being a part of your crappy script.
Well then, why don't you show me what a first-class script is like through your own actions?
It's just truly puzzling. It's so weird. It's like he was trying to be witty, but it just doesn't fit right. And as great, incredible as the voice actor is, this one just doesn't land. But it's another in a long line of Resident Evil lines that you can't help but just love. Next, over at number 19, let's talk about Mortal Kombat 4. Mortal Kombat 4 was incredibly significant for the time. It was like technically the last mainline Mortal Kombat game to get an arcade release, and it was also the first Mortal Kombat game to go fully 3D graphics. And it is very much a product of its time. I mean, it was 1997. Fighting games were pretty humble back then. You probably have experience with one of them, but I don't know if you've ever experienced the Mortal Kombat 4 character endings. These cutscenes are absolutely out of this world. Every single one, showdowns between characters, they say the dumbest things I've ever heard. It is so corny, so over the top, so ridiculous. They honestly have to be seen to be believed. It's often memed, but you may have seen this encounter, this final encounter between Sonya Blade and Jarek, and then also Jax. It's so ridiculous, like she throws him off a cliff, he double crosses her, pulls her off the cliff, then Jax shows up out of nowhere to grab him and throw him off the cliff, and he says,
"Too late, Jarek. You can't grab me. You have to uphold the law. You have to arrest me. Wait, this is brutality. You can't do it." "Wrong, Jarek. This is not a brutality. This is a fatality."
This whole ending is amazing. All the endings are absolutely amazing. Every bit of the 3D characters on screen just doing their thing and having story and dialogue is absolutely ridiculous, but this part is just downright legendary. I want to show more. We don't have time, so I highly recommend looking them up on YouTube. We'll link one down in the description. Next, over at number 18, we have Metroid Other M, which is like the black sheep of the Metroid family. It's completely different. It's a totally different style of game, and it takes some big jumps in how it portrays Samus and really everything in the Metroid lore. I mean, like right in what is basically the early game, like intro thing, Samus's mission is set up. She's in her ship when she gets a distress signal, and we'll just let this one play out.
Codename Baby's Cry. A common SOS with the urgency of a baby crying. The nickname comes from the fact that the purpose of the signal is to draw attention.
Yeah, absolutely genius. The fact that she doubles down and saying,
Baby's Cry. It was as though it was crying specifically for me.
And then there's the place in the game called the Bottle Ship. Really, the game does a lot of things with the theme of motherhood, but regardless of how you feel how successful that is, a lot of the super on-the-nose dialogue is absolutely grating to hear. I think there's a reason why in most traditional Metroid games, there's not a lot of dialogue. Sometimes less is more, and I think Metroid Other M proved that. Next over at number 17, the main character in Atomic Heart says crispy critters. That's like his catchphrase. I don't know what this is. I don't know what they were trying to do here. Like instead of like holy crap or something like that, he'll say crispy critters. It's not a reference to the cereal in the 1960s because the timeline actually technically doesn't line up. Somebody actually looked that up. I think what they were trying to do here was just create some weird catchphrase that somebody in the future would say, just something that you just don't understand. It's in their vernacular, it's in their dialect, it's part of their culture. It's not something that you'd understand. Us as Americans or people who live in other countries all have their own random weird things that they say that they don't know where they really came from, but it's just a form of expression. But crispy critters just sounds really weird. I'm sorry. I think it was a good idea with good intentions, but it's cringe.
Crispy critters, man.
There is technically an explanation for it towards the end of the game, like it was actually something imprinted on the player's subconscious. It was a phrase that they heard when they were in the hospital, and that was describing a burn victim, a crispy critter. It doesn't make the phrase any less weird, in my opinion, and the explanation is absolutely bizarre. Atomic Heart is actually just straight up bizarre altogether. I actually didn't hate the game, despite some problems, but the crispy critter thing is weird. We will be the first to admit that. Next over at number 16, the original Resident Evil is absolutely a classic for awkward voice acting and strangely written dialogue. And of course, the one that really takes the cake is the Jill sandwich bit. Now, as someone who has grown up playing the series and started with the first one, I knew even back then as a young boy that this line was just absolutely silly and weird. So, Jill gets stuck in a trap with the ceiling slowly closing down on her, and she is saved in the nick of time. And the legendary bearded Barry Burton is there to console her afterwards, and that's when he utters the legendary phrase,
"That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich."
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
Absolutely genius stuff. I mean, between this, the Master of Unlocking, the original Resident Evil really takes the cake. That being said, a Jill sandwich is like a hallmark for Resident Evil fans. We love it as much as we cringe. Next over at number 15, Final Fantasy X, the laugh. You know we were gonna mention the laugh. The way the laugh goes down just is so awkward and strange, but I'm gonna kind of defend this one because the story context around it actually gives this weird, awkward, forced laugh a little bit more meaning. Granted, I may be reading into this too much because I just love the Final Fantasy games and I really love 10. I actually think it was like a story swing, a dialogue swing, a moment that just didn't quite land. Maybe it was because of the delivery, maybe it was the setup, I don't know, but it is kind of funny, like especially just on its own.
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
That laugh is rough, man. Next over at number 14, we have the more recent Forspoken. Now, Forspoken has a lot of rough dialogue, some really dumb, silly stuff that the characters utter near constantly, with the game kind of having a very, very distinct feel. I'll say that to be charitable. It's kind of got like a, how do you do, fellow teens type of vibe to some of the writing, with the main character in particular always constantly trying to sound quick, witty, and with it and snarky, and it gets a bit annoying after a while.
Did you not just see me take out that gnarly beast?
This is just really like the tip of the iceberg. There are so many lines throughout this game. Really, it mostly comes from the main character.
Did I just do that?
Well, definitely with my assistance.
I did not just do that.
We did.
I just moved shit with my mind.
Perhaps our connection has somehow awoken some abilities.
I just moved shit with my mind.
I just keep hearing I.
I just moved shit with my freaking mind! Yeah, okay, that is something I do now. I do magic, talk to sentient cuffs, kill jacked up beasts. You know what? I'll probably fly next.
Now you're just being ridiculous.
But there's a couple things here and there in the writing from some other side characters. We did it before you buy for Forspoken. We weren't the biggest fans of it. It has found some fans out there, but ultimately, part of the reason why we didn't like the game is just how awkward some of this stuff is. Next over at number 13, we have Kingdom Hearts 2. There is a moment when Mickey Mouse makes his debut wearing that sweet new garb all blacked out, you know, with the drip, as the kids say, and he introduces himself with this line.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
There is something so funny about this. Like, I don't know if it's just the whole Kingdom Hearts thing, which can sometimes be jarring, or the fact that Mickey is just awkwardly standing there as he says it, to the fact that they got the Mickey Mouse voice actor to say something like this, to the fact that I just want to quote a YouTube comment that says, "Imagine Walt Disney watching and reacting to this today." I still can't believe like Disney even let Mickey Mouse dress like this and be involved in a game like this. I mean, it ultimately resulted in some really cool stuff from Kingdom Hearts, but it is crazy to see in motion. Next, over at number 12, we have the original Shenmue. Now, a lot of side characters, NPCs, said a lot of weird, strange things to the main character, sometimes just kind of shouting for no reason. The voice acting in this game was pretty wild, but the writing is on another level, I think ultimately just because of translation issues like this line.
Years ago, I was Chinese. Now, I'm a naturalized Japanese. In China, my name was Su Jianmin.
Is that so?
This poor old man announces that years ago he was Chinese. There's actually definitely a lot more to that dialogue if you look into it. According to some fan translations online, it actually amounted to the character describing that years ago he originally hailed from China but became a naturalized Japanese official citizen. So pretty simple explanation, but the English translation is just really straightforward and awkward and goofy. And you know what? If you ask me, that's part of Shenmue's charm. Next, over at number 11, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, the original Destiny released, and it was like a totally different game from what Destiny 2 is now, to the point where the Ghost was a pivotal part of the story, and it was voiced by none other than Peter Dinklage, famous actor who you may know from Game of Thrones as Tyrion Lannister. And let's just say, I don't know if he was trying to sound like an artificial intelligence or something, but it just kind of sounded like he was half-assing it. No disrespect to him, but yeah, along with that, I think he was also dealing with some pretty rough material, specifically, of course, the famous line, "Say it with me now."
That wizard came from the moon.
Yep, there's that. I mean, it makes sense. The moon is part of the plot. Wizards are a part of the game as enemies. And yeah, I mean, like, they had to say it, I guess. Like, there was a reason to say it, but the way he said it and just the whole awkwardness of it just makes it legendary, if you ask us. It was so goofy, even more goofy in the context with all the other lines around it, that they did eventually remove it from the game, but then they put it back in because it was like a viral moment. Destiny fans and the game really have come a long way. Just looking back at this one, it sounds and feels like a fever dream. Next, over at number 10, let's talk Mega Man 8 and some of the incredible stuff that comes from Dr. Light. Like, all of it is just unintentionally hilarious because of the voice actor. It's not even really necessarily the dialogue written here. It's who they chose to deliver it. Essentially, he kind of just sounds like my uncle, like some guy they found in the back of a deli, and they said, "Here, you're a scientist in a science fiction video game. Read these lines." A lot of it is really funny and goofy. He has like marbles in his mouth. He just sounds like a real regular dude.
A strange meteor has fallen to Earth just a while ago. This meteor seems to be emitting a powerful energy signature. Something this powerful must not fall into the hands of evil.
Maybe that's what they were going for, I don't know, but there are certain lines where you can actually kind of hear him kind of flub it. Specifically during some exposition, there's this scene. Like, you hear him there when he says, like, you must uncover all the energy immediately, Mega Man. Like, you
must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
It's too good. It's so funny. I don't know why. It makes me crack up. Anyway, moving on.
When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
Next, over at number 9, in Final Fantasy IV, there's "You Spoony Bard." This is like a legendary quote by now. "You Spoony Bard" is what a character says to a bard in the game, and a lot of people chalk this up as just some weird, awkward localization or translation issues. But according to those that did the research, it's not a translation. It's just a made-up line, a made-up word that wasn't actually in the original main game. Like, the Japanese text didn't mention anything about a spoony bard, so it was just kind of thrown in. Now, according to legendsoflocalization.com and some interviews and research they did, essentially, and I quote, "The script was translated by a Japanese speaker who lacked the ability to write in fluent English. But there are also small chunks of text throughout the script that were clearly revised and edited to sound better. So some things, like Spoony Bard, fell through the cracks, and it's really funny, and to this day, some old school Final Fantasy fans will still throw this one out. This is up there with the hallmarks of I Feel Asleep and All Your Bass Are Belong to Us, but it's the one that doesn't get enough love, so we wanted to mention it today. It's just, it's funny. Next over at number 8, Castlevania Symphony of the Night's legendary What is a Man speech. If you ask me, I think this whole encounter, this line in particular, the whole thing, absolute banger. So Symphony of the Night kicks off with a really awesome intro, with Richter Belmont rushing in to face off against Dracula. Richter talks some smack and how he has to die because he's a beast, he's a vampire, all that stuff, while Dracula kind of just goes on to get a little poetic, get a little existential, with him wrapping it up with,
"What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. Have at you!"
And then essentially kicking off the boss battle. You know, some people think this is cheesy or silly, or maybe even Dracula sounding a little pretentious. I think it's badass. Next over at number 7, Death Stranding. Now, Hideo Kojima, his writing, his dialogue always has some awkward or weird or goofy moments. Most of them pretty intentional, if I'm being honest. And the one that really stuck with people in Death Stranding that we want to point out today, among many others, is this one.
We run together.
Run.
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Now, it's crazy out of context. It makes just as much sense in context. It's kind of messy because the end of the game dumps a lot on you for the last like hour or so, and the fact that like the beach is an actual thing in the game, and the reference is just a tongue-in-cheek Hideo Kojima video game reference. He's done it before, but even for Kojima, this is like a hell of a belabored pun, man. This one's pushing it. That's as far as we're gonna go. I'm not really gonna explain the concept of the beach or anything because we're gonna be here all day if I do. Now at number 6, Warhammer 40k, Dawn of War, Soulstorm. This line about the metal boxes.
Look, rhinos! Rhinos! Our enemies hide in metal boxes, the cowards! The fools! We should take away their metal boxes.
Obviously, I can't replicate how that was said, but oh boy, this one's a lot. Sounds like the character or the voice actor was really riffing a lot on this one, and maybe it was the first take. This is a really cheesy line, even for Warhammer, which has some cool stuff. This game is the final expansion to Dawn of War, which is often considered the black sheep of the game series. It wasn't made by the original developers, and it shows with this goofy dialogue, and also the game had a lot of bugs. Next over at number 5, for the TurboGrafx CD in 1990, there was a game called Last Alert. It was very much just kind of like a straightforward, kind of top-down-ish run-and-gun shooter, and it was very much a product of the 90s, from the way the game was to just the dialogue, story, and presentation. Just look at this exchange right here.
Guy Kazama, if you don't want the hostage killed, you should keep quiet.
Guy, the stealth bomber is in the back of this factory.
Okay, Spartan, hang in there just a while longer.
I don't know what it is, just the delivery, the two characters, the voice choice. To me, it just sounds like two guys who are high as hell riffing in a room, and you know what? I respect them for that. This sounds fun and goofy. Honestly, unpopular and weird, unhinged opinion, but I think more games and voice actors should sound like this today. Now, next over at number 4, let's talk the original Devil May Cry. The original Devil May Cry is a pretty different game. In the early days, they were still trying to figure out what Devil May Cry really was. At some points in this game, it was super over the top and campy and awesome, just good Capcom style. Other times, it was trying to take itself super seriously, and it was gothic and spooky and somber. And it meant for a lot of weird, kind of all over the place dialogue moments. There are many worth pointing out, but of course, the big one is this.
I should have saved you.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
I actually think it's a good line, maybe if you read it in a book or something, but just the way it was delivered, the way it was presented, the echoing of the word light. It's just rough. I mean, honestly, the whole ending is amazing. I still, to this day, really have a soft spot in my heart for the original Devil May Cry. It is such a cool thing, and no cool game is complete without just some weird dialogue moments like this. Next over at number 3, The House of the Dead 2. The main character gets a Goldman, one of the bad guys behind the desk, who explains his whole evil plan. And here, just listen to this.
I've been waiting for you, friends.
Goldman, do you know what you're doing?
I'm fully aware of what I'm doing. Can't you see? Man committed a sin, disturbing the life cycle of nature. The original sin that man is responsible to protect the life cycle. I have made a creature to rule over mankind. This is the final battle. Show yourself, our new ruler, the Emperor.
The one who rules over nature. I shall destroy and hate mankind. I am the Emperor.
Maybe back in the day, it was me playing it in the arcade, and maybe it was just the second one not being my favorite game, but I barely remember stuff like this. It's almost like hearing it in full undisturbed quality on a computer screen. It just sounds insane. I don't know if it's someone just completely reading or somebody who speaks English as like a second language. There's something so jarring and silly about the delivery. To me, it actually almost just sounds like it's like artificial intelligence. I know they didn't have capabilities of that back then, but this sounds like Microsoft Sam delivering evil dialogue about the original sin and protecting the life cycle and stuff. It is wild. These games were absolutely batshit insane for the time. And if you want to look into more, you should, because this one is only just scratching the surface. Next over at number 2, Sonic Riders on GameCube. You've probably heard this line before.
Not just a race, but a special race to see who's the fastest.
Dude, I mean, guys, like, it's Sonic. It's all about going fast. We get that. We get emphasizing that, but we know what a race also is. A race is to determine who is the fastest, because the fastest person wins. Why would you say it's why? I'm going crazy. We almost at the end of this video because I'm losing my mind. Next down at number 1, there's a point in Earth Defense Force 5 where aliens are revealed and they're humanoid aliens. These games are campy, they're over the top, you know, they're beloved because they are so zany and just silly sci-fi, but there's a point in the game where all the characters on the radio chatter are just constantly going back and forth describing how they've seen bipedal aliens that look like humans.
I'm not talking about monsters, I'm talking about humanoid aliens!
The characters go back and forth, overemphasizing and over-delivering. It's just like over-expository dialogue, describing how these new creatures, these new aliens from UFOs look like humans.
I'm talking about humanoid aliens!
We have a reported sighting of humanoid aliens.
Humanoid aliens?
Extraterrestrial beings similar to human.
You mean aliens that look like humans?
One head, 2 eyes, with hands and feet. Bipedal.
Almost identical to humans.
The amount of times they say it, like, you feel like you're going crazy. It's like the game is trying to play a trick on you, especially because once you see these supposedly humanoid aliens with 2 arms, 2 legs, the whole 9 yards, they're kind of just frogs. Why did they never say, after saying so many times that they look like humans, why didn't they just mention that they kind of also look like frogs? What is going on? So that was a wild trip, just some of the silliest, dumbest, weirdest bits of dialogue in video games. There's definitely room for a part 2, so we want to hear yours down in the comments, because there are so many other classic lines we haven't covered yet, so we want to know from you guys. But of these lines here, do you have any vivid memories of stumbling upon these? Of course, if you want to check out the full versions of these, they'll all be linked in the description down below, so go check those out. But thank you guys very much for sticking around and talking games with us today. If you like this video, all you gotta do is click that like button. Thank you. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.